There are concrete examples of how a devotee discharged one of these services and achieved perfection. King Parikshit achieved the desired goal of life simply by hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Shukadev Goswami achieved the desired goal of life simply by reciting Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Prahlad Maharaj became successful in his devotional service by always remembering the Lord. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was successful by engaging herself in massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. King Prithu became successful by worshipping in the temple. Akrura became successful by offering prayers. Hanuman became successful by rendering personal service to Lord Ramachandra. Arjuna became successful by being a friend of Krishna. And Bali Maharaj became successful simply by offering all of his possessions to Krishna. You know all these stories?
I don't know. King Prithu and the temple?
Oh, King Prithu. King Prithu, he was a Shaktavesh avatar of Krishna. His story is described in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, I think in the 6th canto. Either the 4th or the 6th canto, I can't remember. Anyway, King Prithu introduced agriculture. It must have been around the end of Satya Yuga, beginning of Dvapara Yuga. Because in Satya Yuga there's no agriculture. Fruits and other plants grow so luxuriantly all over the world that people are just hunter-gatherers. They just, you know, find some nice fruits or find some nice roots and pick them and cook them and eat them. There's no need, you know, for big cities and elaborate houses and stuff like that. The weather is so nice because everyone is completely pious. In Dvapara Yuga, then the population increases and there's a need for agriculture because people become 1/4 impious. So in that time, then the process of agriculture was introduced, plowing and so on like that. And Maharaj Prithu established probably the first temple. Because there was no real need for a temple. In Satya Yuga, everyone became perfect simply by meditation. So there's no real need for temple. In Dvapara Yuga, then, the temple was introduced and deity worship was introduced. And Maharaj Prithu's deity worship was so incredibly gorgeous and so opulent and so wonderful and so devotional and so pure. This is described in glowing terms in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, how he became perfect in that way. So he conquered not only Bharatvarsha, but he conquered several of the dvipas of the Bhumandala besides Bharatvarsha. He was very influential, very, very powerful. So anyway, that's Prithu Maharaj. So where was we? Okay. There are also examples of devotees who discharged all the different items together. In the 9th canto, 4th chapter, verses 18, 19, and 20 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there is a statement about Maharaj Ambarish, who followed every one of the devotional processes. In these verses, Shukadev Goswami says, King Ambarish, first of all, concentrated his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and then engaged his speech in describing the pastimes and activities of the Lord. He engaged his hands in washing the temple of the Lord. He engaged his ears in hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the beautiful deity in the temple. He engaged his body in associating with the pure devotees of the Lord. When you associate with someone, you have to sit down together, eat together, etc. And in this way, the touch of your body with their bodies is inevitable. Maharaj Ambarish made his association only with pure devotees and did not allow his body to be touched by anyone else. He engaged his nostrils in smelling the flowers and tulsi offered to Krishna. And he engaged his tongue in tasting Krishna prasada, food prepared specifically for offering to the Lord, the remnants of which are taken by the devotees. Maharaj Ambarish was able to offer very nice prasadam to Krishna because he was a king and had no scarcity of finances. He used to offer Krishna the most royal dishes and then would taste the remnants as Krishna prasadam. There was no scarcity in his royal style because he had a very beautiful temple where the deity of the Lord was decorated with costly paraphernalia and offered high-grade food. So everything was available, and his engagement was always completely in Krishna consciousness. His worship was very, very opulent. See, this is a good example of engaging worldly opulence in the service of Krishna. See, that way, even if you have, by Krishna's grace, some material opulence, you don't get carried away with it. It doesn't ruin you. You see, if you have it, like if somebody came tomorrow and said, "Oh, we like your preaching very much. Here's $1 million." Would we go to Vegas and blow it? Huh? Go party? No. But we have no desire for such nonsense. What we would do is we would use it to increase our service. We would start nice, self-sufficient farm communities all over the world. That's exactly what we would do with it. So try to understand. A devotee, a really fixed-up devotee, can handle any amount of material opulence because he has no material desire. His desire is only to serve Krishna, to spread Krishna consciousness, to help people understand, and to make available facility in human society for this devotional service. The idea is that we should follow in the footsteps of great devotees. If we are unable to execute all the different items of devotional service, we must try to execute at least one of them as exemplified by previous acharyas. If we are engaged in the execution of all the items of devotional service, as was Maharaj Ambarish, then the perfection of devotional service is guaranteed from each one of these items. With the first complete engagement, one becomes automatically detached from material contamination, and liberation becomes the maidservant of the devotee. This is a very, very profound sentence. What does Prabhupada mean by the first complete engagement? This means when one becomes completely absorbed in executing devotional service and reaches the pure devotional service stage by that engagement. Like when I retired from business and I went to Hawaii and I just camped out in the woods and chanted day and night for 6 months. That's when I attained complete engagement, what Prabhupada calls complete engagement. Now he's saying that you can also do it through the other 8 means of devotional service, the other 8 processes. But of course in this age it's not so easy to do. Chanting is very easy, unconditional, you can do it anywhere. Simply find a quiet spot and sit down and chant. Very easy. No qualifications not necessary. You just chant. And the chanting itself will purify you. The holy name himself will purify you. And this is the easiest way. Other processes of devotional service are not so easy. They require some qualifications, some special circumstances. So chanting is the best way, but any of the 9 processes will also work. This is confirmed by Bilvamangala Thakur. If one develops unalloyed devotion to the Lord, liberation will follow the devotee as his maidservant. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the regulative principles of devotional service are sometimes described by authorities as the path of serving the Lord in opulence. So let's look at these 2 ideas. First, Bilvamangala Thakur. You know the story? Bilvamangala Thakur was addicted to a prostitute named Chintamani. And one day, Oh, it was the rainy season, and it was storming and raining. If you've ever been in India, the monsoon season, the rain just pours down out of the sky. And certainly in the olden days, it must have poured even harder than it does today. So Bilamangala went, he was determined to see Chintamani. He was so determined that even though it was raining and storming in the middle of the night, and dark and lightning flashing and freezing cold, he somehow he climbed over the wall. The doors were all barred and shut because it was such a nasty night. Nobody was going to come, so they barred the doors. And he couldn't get in. So he climbed up over the wall, and he slipped and fell, and he hurt himself really bad. And he was in such a miserable condition, you know, that they had to carry him into the house.